Majo John Madden, they call me Juanito in Mexico. I want to take a stab at describing what it means when I say that my way of being an ally in people's healing is being with people as opposed to doing anything to people. I had my big spiritual wake-up call almost 5 years ago and have been traveling for about 4 years, the last 2 years in Mexico, and I'm planted finally. I've used the last several years to practice my Spanish in Mexico, but practice showing up for other people fully in ways that can be healing to them, and practicing dropping any kind of title. I've worn titles like clinical psychologist and psychotherapist and management consultant and management coach and mentor and trainer and all these things. I like to say that the roles I play most consistently in my life are teacher. And having been in the Catholic seminary for 5 years, I always feel pastoral. I always feel like people are my flock. When I worked at AT&T, I said that 300,000 people in the world's largest company were my flock. But I've been, for at least 4 years, been saying I don't do anything. I show up fully in my beingness, which is my specialty these days. I know now how to just be and not do. So I plant myself in front of you with my full beingness and encourage your beingness. That's all airy-fairy. It's really hard to understand what that actually means, and I want to give an example of the first real template for that, which happened in Appalachia the first year of the COVID hit Asheville, North Carolina in February and March. At the end of March, I went out to the high mountains and ended up buying a camper van and spent that year up in those mountains, which unfortunately have been terribly devastated by storms back in September. And the experience I'm going to describe was at one of the places hardest hit by those storms, the river mountain town of Marshall, right along the fabulous French Broad River. In June, I was staying straight north of Asheville, but my host said, "You would like Marshall. It's such a sweet town right along the river. And so many of the artists from Asheville who can't afford the rents in the River Arts District are moving out there." So I started going on a regular basis. It was about a half-hour drive over to Marshall. And it was just starting to come back to life again from the COVID. There was a wonderful bar right along the river, deck overlooking the French Broad River, that was open on the weekends. And I was in there on a Friday night and got to know a guy named Damien. Really interesting, smart, educated guy who was living in one of those howlers out there. Madison County is famous for rednecks and famous for moonshine and famous for howlers, that the cove that would run back into the mountains with the mountains rising up on either side. I got to talking to Damien. He seemed like a really interesting guy. And I said, "Hey, can I come visit you and see your howler and your house out there?" "Sure." So we made plans that on Saturday I would go visit him. Later that night, he sent me a message saying, "Hey, it's off. I got home from the bar and my girlfriend has left me. She took everything. I'm a wreck. I'm in no state to see anybody." And I wrote back and said, "Yes, you need to see people. This is exactly the state, and this is exactly, I'm the best person to be with you in this state. We will ride it out and see what is meant to happen." So he said, okay. So the next morning I drove out to in my big camper van on a road that got narrower and narrower and bumpier and bumpier. I was hooting and hollering and screaming. and somehow made it to the very end of the hour, a beautiful house that her parents had built. And he was a wreck. And we spent time together. And he said, we had been on a cruise when the COVID hit. I flew home. She stayed on the cruise and had an affair with some rich guy. And it's terrible that she left now because I'm just ready to forgive her completely for that. I said, that's not enough. It's not enough. You don't know why she may have needed. Maybe it was good for her healing. It's none of your business what she did on that cruise. You need to beg her forgiveness for all the months that you were not forgiving her, that you were beating her up over it. Okay, he got it. He seemed to really understand the mission. Well, she had turned around and was coming back. She had left some important things. She was hours away. Sometime that morning, she was going to show up back there. And she showed up, and I was with them. I was hearing the story of the house, getting to know her. He was, in fact, the best moonshiner in all of Madison County with all his science, all his scientific training, the best stuff around. And I was being with them as we had moonshine. At one point I said, Damien, COVID, I'm not so sure how I feel about us all drinking the moonshine out of the same mason jar, which was the classic way. He said, it's 99 proof, man. It's going to kill anything. Don't worry about it. So I went back to being with them with the moonshine, and we were in an altered state. And then the moment came. Things came together. The three of us were together, maybe 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and it was time to talk. And he attempted to forgive her. And while I was not intending to play any kind of a role, I have a background in couples coaching and all manner of direct expression, talking, speaking the truth to each other. That's really so much of what I had learned from. And every time he got close to forgiving her, he would hit a nerve in himself of rage and self-righteous, you hurt me, and he would launch into another stream of attacks. And I beat him around the head and shoulders to get him to stop, listen. You said, come on, ante up, let's go, come on, be brave, go listen to her, give to her, forgive. He just couldn't do it. He kept attacking. And finally I looked at her and I said, you're right, go to Oregon. Maybe you'll find a guy in Portland who knows how to forgive, because this guy's useless, forget him. And that got him. And he wept and begged for her forgiveness. And they got reunited, and they were fine. They fell in love all over again. And then a couple days later, they went to Portland together. I've never heard from them, not been able to reach them. But that's what it's about. I show up, I be with you, I not try to do anything to you. I love you, I enter into your reality. And go from there, see what happens. It might mean swimming, might mean dancing, it might mean probably not moonshine there. But being together and as an ally with always my focus is that I'm here to be an ally for your healing. No more, no mas. Got nothing else to say. Okay, bye.